Some prisons are meant to hold criminals. This one was built to break them. They call it the end of the line, the place where hope dies and only the ruthless survive. Welcome to Kawangali Maximum Security Prison, the most dangerous prison on Earth, where the walls don't just keep people in, they keep the outside world out. Deep in the equatorial jungles of an unnamed country, there's a place so notorious it doesn't appear on most maps. Even locals speak of it in hushed tones, a black hole where men vanish, sometimes for years, sometimes forever. Interview with former guard. You don't work there unless you have no choice. The pay is bad, the danger is constant, and you never let your guard down. The prisoners run the place as much as the wardens do. Built in the 1950s as a colonial military fort, Kawangali was converted into a prison for the most dangerous offenders, war criminals, gang leaders, and political enemies. Decades later, it still holds them, along with thousands of men who simply couldn't pay a bribe to stay free. When you step through the gates, the first thing you notice is the smell, a mixture of sweat, sewage, and fear. The noise hits next. Hundreds of voices, the clanging of metal bowls, the sudden sharp crack of a guard's baton on concrete. For new arrivals, the first 24 hours are a test. They size you up, strip you of anything valuable, and decide whether you'll be prey or predator. Interview with former inmate. If you're weak, you're done. They'll take your shoes, your food, your dignity. You either fight back or you find protection fast, usually by joining a gang. Officially, the prison has rules, but in reality it runs on a different code, one written in blood and fear. There are 4 main gangs inside Kawangali. Each controls a block, each has its own economy, and each has a kill list. Step into the wrong territory, and you might not walk out. Interview with prison researcher. We think of prisons as places of control, but in facilities like this, it's the inmates who dictate daily life. Guards often act as negotiators, not enforcers. Everything has a price here. Food, cigarettes, protection, even a safer cell. The real currency isn't cash. It's favors, drugs, and information. Interview with former inmate. If you want extra food, you trade cigarettes. Need a shiv? That's 3 packs and a promise. If you don't have either, you offer your labor, or worse. In Kawangali, violence isn't an exception. It's the heartbeat of the place. Some say it's worse than being at war. At least in war, you know who the enemy is. Interview with ex-guard. We stopped keeping track of murders after a while. The official reports? They don't even scratch the surface. The first riot I'm going to tell you about didn't start with a shout. It started with a silence. One moment, guards were doing routine checks. The next, the air was charged, like a storm ready to break. In Kawangali, fights aren't random. They're messages, warnings, or sometimes assassinations in plain sight. Interview with former inmate. That fight wasn't about the guy who got hit. It was about who controlled the drug trade in C Block. And when the bosses give the order, chaos follows. Within minutes, it wasn't just a fight. It was a full-scale riot. C Block was burning, D Block was looting, and the guards? Most of them locked themselves in safe rooms until reinforcements arrived. Beds were set on fire. Inmates used sharpened rebar to pry open the kitchen. Anything that could be stolen was taken. Anything that could be broken was destroyed. Interview with prison intelligence officer. The strangest thing wasn't the riot itself. It was what happened during it. Or rather, what didn't happen. In the chaos, a man known as the Hyena, leader of the largest gang in Kawangali, vanished. His cell was empty. No body, no blood, no trace, and no one saw him leave. Former inmate speaks. We all knew he was gone, but no one talked about it. In here, if a man disappears, it's either because someone smuggled him out or because he's buried under the prison. After 6 hours, the riot ended as suddenly as it began. The gates were resecured, the bodies were counted, 22 inmates dead, 7 guards injured. But the Hyena's absence was the only number that mattered. The escape was impossible, unless he had help from inside. Rumors spread like wildfire that the Hyena was escorted out in a laundry truck, that he paid a guard with enough gold to buy a house, that he never left at all, but was locked in a secret cell where screams could be heard at night. Interview with former guard, eyes downcast. If I told you what I really think happened, I'd end up in a cell right next to him. Or worse. With the Hyena gone, a power vacuum tore Kawangali apart. Alliances shifted overnight. Men who had been untouchable were suddenly targets. And every gang wanted to claim his territory. Interview with gang expert. In a place like this, removing the top predator doesn't bring peace. It unleashes a feeding frenzy. Officially, this is called Cell Block E. But everyone inside Kawangali has another name for it, the Death Corridor. It's where the prison sends the most violent and unstable inmates, the ones too dangerous for the general population. Once you're sent here, you're on your own. No visits, no medical care, no way back. Interview with former inmate. You don't sleep in the death corridor. You wait. For days, weeks, until someone decides you've had enough. Months after the riot, a whisper started making the rounds. That the Hyena never escaped. That he was locked in here in one of these cells as a warning to anyone who thought they could outsmart the system. No one could prove it. But a handful of guards stubbornly in, or they heard screams, in a voice they recognized. In 2022, an independent human rights team was granted rare access to Kawangali. They walked the halls, spoke to inmates, and saw the death corridor with their own eyes. But when they asked to see certain cells, the warden refused. For your safety, he said. That was the last time outsiders were ever allowed in. Today, Kawangali holds nearly 5,000 inmates, more than 3 times its intended capacity. The gangs still run their blocks, the guards still negotiate more than they enforce, and the death corridor still waits. Interview with human rights lawyer. The walls may keep them inside, but they also keep the truth from coming out. We like to think prisons are about justice, about order. But Kawangali is proof of another reality. Here, power is currency, violence is language, and survival is the only law that matters. And somewhere in those walls, beyond the bars, the Hyena is still waiting. If you thought Kawangali was bad, wait until you see what happens inside the Ice Fortress, the coldest and deadliest prison on Earth. Click here to watch. You've just seen the inside of the world's most dangerous prison. But this is just one story. There are dozens more, each more unbelievable than the last. If you want to know what really happens beyond the bars, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, and join us for the next chapter. Because in the world's darkest places, the truth is the most dangerous thing of all.